Hi, I'm Dr. Wally Marsh. I've been a physician since 1962. I've been licensed to practice medicine in California for most of my life. I'm an ophthalmologist in Lompoc. And I've recently decided to start doing cannabis consultations because there's a great need for them. I'm going to give you a history of cannabis laws in a little bit, but when I say I do a consultation, what I mean is that I will issue you a physician's statement, which looks like this. If you have proper conditions that are either debilitating or disabling or painful, these conditions are allowed by law to be treated by marijuana. If you have tried other drugs, or if you're afraid to try other drugs because of either they've had bad side effects on you, or you're afraid of addiction and so on, and you find that medical marijuana works, then that's another indication. If you're a resident of California, you have to be a resident of California, you have to be able to prove it. The history of legalization of marijuana in California is, very briefly, the proposition of, the passage of Proposition 215. In 1996, the voters of California, via the initiative process, voted almost 57% yes to legalize the use of marijuana as medicine under certain conditions. The initiative, in a measure form, really becomes part of the state's constitution, one of the few states that can do that. When we get tired of waiting for our legislators to pass a law that we think is good, we can just mount a proposition, and the entire voting population of the state of California gets to vote on it. So marijuana is not your right to use by some magical diplomatic or political decree. This is the will of the people of California. You should be clear about that. SB 420, which is Senate bill that was passed 2-3 years ago, you hear about it, was supposed to clarify some of the points of confusion that arose in Prop 215, but it didn't clarify everything. So there will be things that need clarifying. Everybody has some individual difficulties and some individual conditions. We'll discuss those on an individual basis after you've seen this entire video and after I have thoroughly evaluated this quite long history form that you have to fill out. If you can convince me by what you tell me, by your previous doctor's records, by your history form, that you have a legitimate reason for using marijuana medicinally, and you're issued a physician statement, you will not have to convince anybody else for at least the next 12 months why you use medical marijuana. In fact, your medical privacy is protected by state and federal laws that are very rigidly enforced. Everybody in the healthcare field, including me, has to comply with these laws. So the things you wrote down on this history form that you either filled out or will fill out shortly, it's a 4-pager, they will, together with the history you tell me orally, and when I find out from other doctors, will determine whether you get this physician statement. Then you are legally allowed to buy, possess, transport, use, and grow marijuana for your own medicine. There are some limits. Statewide, the statewide minimum limit for possession is 8 ounces. That's dried bud weight. That doesn't mean your whole plant, it's just dried bud weight. You can grow if you choose to. You're allowed to grow by law up to 6 mature female plants, and a female plant is mature when it begins to flower. You can have up to 12 immature plants, and you may or may not know if they're male or female. If you want advice on growing, which you can do, I'm a bad person to try to give you advice on any aspect of that. You can get on the NORML, NORML website. That's one that's the acronym for the National organization for the reform of marijuana laws. And if you get online with that, you can be led through a whole series of steps, tell you everything about marijuana that a reasonable person could want to know. Where to buy it, what kind works best for what kind of problems, how to grow it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are true unless you're on probation or parole, and if you are, you have to tell me about it because the conditions are different. I suggest that you smoke marijuana only really in your own home or in somebody else's home whose permission you have to do it. Because if you smoke it in public, you never know whether you're going to be within 1,000 feet of those schoolhouses that you signed a statement, that you can't smoke around. So use common sense. Smoke where you're pretty sure you're not going to be arrested just for the pure act of smoking marijuana. How the statements work. This is the last thing I'll tell you. There are other things to be covered. The physician statement looks like this. After I've filled in your name, signed it, you've written and signed on it. This is what you need to be legal. This is what converts your marijuana into medicine. And the original statement is all you need. The only time you need it is when you go into a cannabis dispensary or marijuana shop and buy for the first time, and then the shop will register you in. They'll call me to verify that you are who you say you are and that I've in fact issued you one of these. And then after that, you don't need the original. I suggest you stash the original in a safe place in your house, and you can keep a copy. A copy of this physician statement is sufficient for law enforcement purposes. So really, you just fold one up and put it inside your wallet. There is some talk about state cards. I'll get around to discussing that later because they change. Too often for me to feel like putting it as part of this. We're going to meet together, or separately, in just as soon as you're done watching this. And you're done. Done.